Now, if you're coming from 11.204, 12.102, you're going to be used to terms like PSUs. PSU means patch set update, and what that is your quarterly bundle of security patches and regression fixes that gets issued in January, April, July, and October of every year. Now, what's in a PSU is, as I mentioned, security fixes. So, of course, we are on top of security vulnerabilities, whether they're identified by our internal teams or by external security researchers or universities, what have you. And we issue those security bundles every quarter. And we used to issue bundles of just security fixes, what were called CPUs, or now called SPUs, for 11.204. But then it came out, basically, customer experience was that in addition to those security fixes, they needed certain critical fixes for really high priority bugs, instance crashes, cluster-wide hangs, other things that might be regressions in their database environment. So we produced the PSUs for 11.204, and then that became the basic bundle for 12.102. So your PSU has security fixes and then fixes for your most important database issues, such as crashes and hangs. Now, on top of that, we found that many customers, of course, also have to manage too many overlay, or what you might call a one-off fix. You might have a certain set of 14 fixes that are needed for your application database, or someone else might have 43 or 200 one-off fixes. And then every quarter, when you would get a PSU, you might have to get a new version of many of those fixes, or maybe some of them are incorporated in the PSU, and you get a different merge patch on top of that. And that kind of complicated and delayed the whole quarterly patching process. So what we've done for 12.1 and 2 and since is have these bundle patches. And a bundle patch includes the quarterly PSU, but then it has the most high value functional fixes, whether they're optimizer fixes or fixes to other types of functionality, that are all tested as a bundle, installed as a bundle each quarter. And the intent of the bundle patch is to reduce the number of one-off fixes that you have to manage or request for your environment. It's been pretty successful at doing that. Now, it's important to note when we talk about optimizer fixes, that always raises a red flag, because optimizer fixes can be very finicky. What fixes something on one database or for one application may cause issues on another database or another application, depending on how they've got hints implemented, optimizer parameters implemented, and so on. So when we deliver optimizer fixes as a part of our quarterly patch bundles, they're delivered disabled by default. And then you, as a DBA, can enable those fixes on one database at a time if you want, by using a fix control parameter in your init.aura. This is good because, first of all, it means you don't have to download and install a separate fix in order to get that optimizer fix. But it also means that you don't have to have all of the same databases that might use a common Oracle home using the same optimizer fixes. If a particular application hasn't encountered an issue, you don't have to turn on a fix for it and risk perturbing your query plans. So that was all implemented back in 12.102. Now, let's talk about what you're going to see when you go to 19. And that's terminology such as release updates and release update revisions. The release update is the fundamental patch bundle that we release each quarter for 12.2, 18, 19, and beyond. And if you look at the contents of that release bundle, it's security fixes, regression fixes, optimizer fixes delivered disabled by default, and then functional fixes for the most commonly encountered or highest value customer filed bugs. That is what we used to call the database bundle patch. So that has become our unit of delivering our quarterly patch bundle, because it's been so successful at minimizing the number of one-off fixes needed by most customers. Now, there may be cases where you need more fixes than are in that bundle. Many cases, when we have one-off fixes on top of bundles, we will roll them into later bundles, because each release update is cumulative, and each update will have everything that was in the previous update plus new content in one or maybe all of those areas. And as I sit here today, the latest release update is 19.10, which included over 1,000 database fixes on top of 19.9. So it's a very comprehensive release update. Now, we recognize that not every customer wants to take on a full set of optimizer functional fixes and so on every quarter, but you do need those security updates. So we also deliver each quarter a release update revision. Now, this can be a little confusing to those who haven't been exposed to it. So let me explain what I'm talking about here. So when we have a release update, 3 months later, so say you take on the January release update, in April, we will issue a revision for that update. And that revision will have new content in only 2 of the 4 areas, which are security fixes. So they will be current on your security patches for the quarter. And then regressions. In other words, if that release update had any functional regressions in it that we were able to find and fix in the first 3 months, then they will be fixed in that release update revision. So if we are on release update revision in January, we'll see, or in release update in January, you'll see a revision in April, but there will also be a new release update in April. And that will continue on with subsequent release updates each quarter.